It's April 9th here in Seoul, and I'm Kim Dami. We begin with these stories making the headlines at this hour, starting with Wednesday's upcoming elections. We're just a day away from South Korea's 22nd general elections. Last-minute election campaigning is in a full push nationwide. 2 out of 5 households here in the country are one-person households, with those in their 60s making up the largest portion. A rapidly aging society and a decline in marriages are behind the phenomenon. A total solar eclipse darkened the United States for the first time in 7 years on Monday. The next total solar eclipse in the country won't be until 2044. There's just 1 day left before Koreans go to the polls to decide on a new 300-member National Assembly. Now, the focus is on which party will secure the majority of the seats, as power in the National Assembly varies depending on the number of seats won. Our political correspondent Shin-Young leads us this morning.
After about 2 weeks of competitive election campaigns, all that remains is the people's choice. The April election comes almost 2 years after conservative President Yoon Suk-yeol's victory in the 2022 presidential election, where he narrowly defeated Democratic Party's candidate Lee Jae-myung by a margin of 0.73%, the smallest margin in South Korean history. For this year's election, the number of seats for elected lawmakers has increased to 254 from 253, with 1 seat taken from the proportional representation bloc, which dropped to 46 from 47, keeping the total number of lawmakers at the National Assembly at 300. Winning at least 150 of the 300 seats grants the party the power to pass budget bills and various laws. Any party that secures 3/5 or more of the National Assembly members, meaning 180 seats or more, will have strong legislative power, including the ability to fast-track bills. In the 2020 general election, the DP and its satellite party won 180 seats, resulting in a minority government with the Yoon administration taking office. Obtaining over 2/3, which is at least 200 National Assembly seats, further strengthens authority, allowing for constitutional amendments, dismissal of legislators, and even the ability to initiate presidential impeachment. As the Yoon administration enters its 3rd year in office, the DP is determined to maintain its dominance to act as a counterbalance to the ruling party and the Yoon administration. For the ruling People Power Party, this year's race is considered crucial because failing to secure a majority could potentially render President Yoon Suk-yeol a lame duck for the remainder of his term. Meanwhile, according to the National Election Commission, the turnout for early voting reached 31.28%, a new record in the history of general elections in South Korea. The PPP attributed the strong turnout to people's judgment toward the main opposition party, while the DP viewed it as a sign of strong public sentiment against the government. Eyes are now on how the April election will reshape the political landscape for the next 4 years, including the remainder of the Yoon administration's term. Shin-Young, Arirang News.
The presidential office says that despite reports to the contrary, it has never reviewed a proposal by doctors to postpone the increase in the medical school enrollment quota by 1 year, adding that it has no plans to do so. An official at the presidential office told reporters on Monday that the government stands firm on the original plan of an extra 2,000 places. However, it is open to talks about the exact number if the medical community comes up with a scientific and rational proposal. 2 out of 5 households in South Korea are single-person households. 1, because of the country's aging demographics, and 2, more and more people decide not to get married. Lee Seung-jae reports.
According to data from the Ministry of Interior and Safety on Tuesday, the number of single-person households in South Korea stood at 10,021,413 as of March this year, marking the first time the figure has reached the 10 million mark. That's compared to 9,981,702 single-person households the previous month. Among the over 24 million households nationwide, single-person households make up 41.8%, or 2 out of 5. By age group, those in their 60s make up the highest proportion of people living in single-person households at over 1.86 million, followed by those in their 30s at over 1.68 million and those in their 50s at over 1.64 million. People in their 70s and above accounted for over 1.98 million. By region, Gyeonggi-do Province and Seoul had the highest proportion of single-person households. There were also more men living alone than women. The number of smaller-sized households, which consists of one- and two-person households, is increasing, while the number of larger households is decreasing. While the number of two-person households also increased slightly in March, the number of four-person households decreased from over 3.12 million households to around 3.11 million. The government believes that the proportion of single-person households is increasing due to the higher number of seniors living alone and the rise in unmarried people. It says it will continue to explore various policies centered on single-person households. In particular, the government is exploring policies related to rising food prices and stable housing as its top priority. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
South Korea's second homegrown spy satellite successfully made it into the orbit from Kennedy Space Center in Florida on Sunday local time. Now, what does that mean for the situation here on the Korean Peninsula? We're joined by Professor Park Won-kwon for the answer. Welcome back, Professor Park.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for joining us. What makes the second spy satellite different from the one launched last December? What significance does the second one carry?
Well, the second military satellite, they do have a so-called SAR radar, or we call it as SAR satellite. SAR stands for Synthetic Aperture Radar, and it captured the data using the microwaves, and they are capable of collecting the data regardless of weather conditions. I can say that it's like weatherproof, the surveillance system. And it can penetrate through the clouds, smoke, and even haze to create high-resolution images of the Earth's surface. The first one we successfully launched, they did not have this SAR radar. Instead, they have a EO. EO stands for electro-optical sensors or infrared sensors. Of course, it's a very it can deliver the very detailed image of the Earth's surface. But problem is that this EO/IR sensors has strongly influenced by weather condition. So combined of these two satellite systems, South Korea, we do have a far enhanced its surveillance capability.
Right, and then it's not just one or two, but a total of 5 that the South Korean military is trying to launch by the year 2025. Now, the 5 are expected to offer regular coverage of certain targets at about 2-hour intervals. Do explain what this means, please.
Yes, South Korea, our military and government has pursued so-called 4-5 project, and this stands for the 1 SAR satellite plus the 4 EO/IR radar satellite. So this third satellite will be launched this November this year, and fourth and fifth satellite will be launched next year. Then South Korea will evaluate the constellation effect. But overall, you just mentioned that 2-hour intervals is very important. This satellite will be positioned in such a way that every 2 hours, one of them will be over the target area. And this is a very significant capability because it ensures that the area is being watched frequently and allowing for near real-time intelligence. It reduces the chance of missing any important activities. So it has, of course, strategic implications. South Korea can keep a close eye on the potential security threat or areas of interest. Of course, we are talking about North Korea.
Right, that leads to my next question. Will the 5 spy satellites be enough to monitor the North and prevent provocations coming from the North? I mean, how many should there be?
Well, so no way to have a perfectly counter the North Korean provocation. I mean, we couldn't say that how many, but the 5 and the South Korea government also have planned to launch the ultra small satellite and will greatly enhance South Korea capability. On top of that, you see, South Korea, we do have the joint military system with the United States, and lately we have a very closely cooperate with Japan too. So in other words, with Japan, South Korea, and United States have a collaborate with each other to counter the North Korean provocation. And United States, that has the most advanced technology. At the same time, they do have a capability to surveil us all over the world. Of course, it includes North Korea too. And I just mentioned that South Korea, we do have the additional plan to launch the 40 more ultra-small spy satellite. And among them, 36 are SAR satellite and 4 EO/IR radar satellites. And then it can cover the wide range of the peninsula. And at the same time, these the big satellites can have a more detailed image and detailed surveillance to South Korea. And in that sense, we can see the most important target of North Korea, that is mobile launcher, so-called TEL. And even we can see Kim Jong-un's special train, and even can see the weapons hide in the woods. And it can enhance South Korea's so-called kill chain. We have this strategy of kill chain. Kill chain refers to preemptive missile strike readiness. At the same time, if North Korea launched any kind of missiles, we, South Korea, do have a very enhanced capability to precise strike of the missiles and the target.
So the more satellites, the better. It's highly likely that North Korea is speeding up to launch its own second spy satellite in the coming weeks, isn't it? Maybe in time for April 15th? What do you think?
Well, Kim Jong-un announced to launch 3 more spy satellites this year. So I think there are at least 2 important reasons, the decision-making point of launch of the satellite by the North. First, definitely North Korea needed to have a technological readiness and should not be failed. And second, it's about the weather, because satellite launch is strongly influenced by the weather. Then maybe think about North Korea, think about the important political days for launching the satellite. This April, North Korea had 2 major holidays. One is the April 15th, so-called Kim Il-sung's birthday. And then the April 25th is the founding anniversary of the North Korean People's Revolutionary Army. So if they are simply ready and they have chance to matching this date for their launching.
Right, so it looks like the launch time more depends on the regime's confidence in its technology.
Yes, exactly.
All right, Professor Bach, thank you as always for your insight. You have a great day.
Thank you.
The U.S. Department of Commerce has unveiled a massive financial boost for the Taiwanese tech giant TSMC, a landmark decision aimed at reclaiming the U.S.'s leading role in the chip-making arena. Shin Se-byuk has the details.
The U.S. Department of Commerce announced on Monday a significant subsidy of $6.6 billion to support the Taiwanese chipmaker TSMC. This move aligns with the 2022 CHIPS Act, a flagship policy of U.S. President Joe Biden, aimed at reshoring semiconductor supply chains to the U.S. after a decades-long shift to Asia. The latest announcement exceeds initial estimates by more than 30% from an expected $5 billion. In addition, the initiative includes up to $5 billion in low-interest government loans, bringing the total support to $11.6 billion. Monday's announcement came as TSMC outlined plans to increase its investment in the U.S. from $25 billion to $65 billion and to establish a 3rd factory in Phoenix, Arizona by 2030. This expansion represents the largest foreign direct investment in U.S. history, highlighting TSMC's commitment to growing its U.S. operations. The Commerce Department expects TSMC's U.S. investment to create a significant economic impact by generating about 6,000 manufacturing jobs and 20,000 construction jobs. President Biden, in a statement on Monday, underscored the critical need for this initiative, noting Washington's vulnerability due to its inability to manufacture the most sophisticated semiconductors. He also emphasized that the CHIPS Act positions the U.S. to account for approximately 20% of global production of cutting-edge chips by 2030. Last month, the U.S. government unveiled a nearly $20 billion support package for the American chipmaker Intel. Attention now shifts to Samsung Electronics with expectations over an announcement related to a subsidy for the South Korean chipmaker next week. 신세벽, Arirang News.
11 South Korean citizens have been evacuated from Haiti via helicopter due to worsening security in the Caribbean nation. According to a source of Foreign Ministry on Monday, the South Koreans were airlifted to the neighboring Dominican Republic, but did not add further details of the evacuation, citing the safety of other South Koreans there. Last month, the South Korean government evacuated 2 citizens from the country due to rising gang violence. The island nation has seen a rise in violence and poverty since the assassination of then President Jovenel Moise in 2021. Currently, around 60 South Koreans are believed to be in Haiti. The Korean wave, also known as Hallyu, is reaching every corner of the world. One of the world's largest art museums is holding an exhibition entirely dedicated to the history and evolution of Hallyu. Our culture correspondent Song Yujin has this report.
Hallyu, or the Korean wave, is making a splash in America like never before. The Museum of Fine Arts Boston is hosting the U.S. debut of the exhibition Hallyu, the Korean Wave, back after its first run at London's Victoria and Albert Museum in 2022.
Hallyu really, this moment, is a global phenomena. The influence it has on different regions around the world, on different generations of people, it's just really amazing. We have a very significant Korean art already. But it's mostly of the art before the 1900s. I think it's very important to show that, creativity, energy, and innovation.
MFA's Hallyu, the Korean Wave, showcases around 250 costumes, props, photos, videos, and artworks on Korean popular culture. The first section, From Rubble to Smartphones, delves into Korea's history over the past century through photos, videos, posters, and archival materials.
We think it's very important for people to understand Korea's recent history and how Hallyu really came out of there. And this is an incredible story about resilience and innovation.
Next, visitors explore the present K-culture with outfits worn by K-pop groups aespa and 80s. There are the iconic pink and green suits from the Netflix hit Squid Game and a recreation of the bathroom set from the Oscar-winning film Parasite. Wrapping up the experience is a dance challenge, inviting visitors to try K-pop's synchronized moves. But what distinguishes MFA's Hallyu, the Korean Wave, is its blend of past and present. Korean-American artist Julia Kwon's work showcasing patchwork textiles resembling bojagi, a traditional Korean object wrapping cloth, is an example.
My textile work that draws attention to the rise of anti-Asian hate during the COVID-19 pandemic is currently on display in Hallyu. I integrate patterns from contemporary socio-political events into the bojagi design to question people's preconceptions on authenticity and otherness. My work considers what it means to form an Asian feminine identity today within the context of globalism, cultural hybridity, intersectionality.
Hallyu, the Korean Wave, runs until July 28th at the MFA's Anne and Graham Gunn Gallery before heading to the Asian Art Museum in San Francisco. 송유진, Arirang News.
Good morning, I'm Kim Si-young, and now we turn over to stories from around the world. In North America, the first total solar eclipse in 7 years was observed on Monday, with the moon blocking out the sun for just under 4.5 minutes. People gathered all across the continent along the path of totality, which ran from Mexico's Pacific coast through Texas and 14 other U.S. states into parts of eastern Canada. Some 31 million people live along the path of totality, and federal officials said that around 5 million people traveled to see the eclipse. The last total solar eclipse in North America was in 2017, which lasted about 2 minutes and 42 seconds. According to NASA, total eclipses can last from 10 seconds up to 7.5 minutes. The next total solar eclipse in the mainland US will be in 2044, while an earlier total eclipse in 2026 can be seen in Greenland, Iceland, Spain, Russia, and Portugal. U.S. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen warned China on Monday that Washington will not have Chinese imports decimating American industries. Wrapping up 4 days of meetings in Beijing, Yellen said in a news conference on Monday that U.S. President Joe Biden is determined to avoid a repeat of the China shock of the early 2000s, where a flood of cheaper Chinese imports destroyed some 2 million American manufacturing jobs. Yellen, since arriving in China the previous week, pressed the U.S. perspective that Chinese industries fueled by government support are producing excessively and straining global markets. Yellen also threatened to sanction Chinese banks facilitating transactions to the Russian military, to which the Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson said on Monday that their cooperation with Russia should not be restricted. Moscow has accused Ukraine of launching very dangerous drone attacks at Zaporizhzhia nuclear power station over the past 48 hours. The nuclear power plant has been occupied and run by Russia since 2022. Russia says there were 3 drone attacks on Sunday and that the Ukrainian forces attacked the plant again on Monday with a kamikaze drone, which was shot down over one of their reactors. The head of the International Atomic Energy Agency, Rafael Grossi, condemned the drone strike on Monday, saying that no one can conceivably benefit and attacking a nuclear power plant is an absolute no-go. Ukraine has denied being behind the attacks. A British man successfully completed a monumental journey running the length of Western Africa on Sunday. 27-year-old Russ Cook began his extreme run last April from Cape Agulhas in South Africa and ran over 16,000 kilometers through 16 countries to finish in Ras Angela in Tunisia. Cook, who is the first person to run the length of the entire African continent, took 352 days to complete the run. Although Cook was faced with challenges including a kidnapping and armed robbery, as well as hurdles with visas, he persevered in his mission to raise funds for charity. Cook received over $880,000 in donations.
Good morning. We are expecting a warm, dry spring day, meaning the nation is on high alert against wildfires. Except for Jeju Island, the mainland is under the second highest forest fire warnings. And a dry weather advisory remains in place in the capital, while the southeast coast is under a strong wind advisory. But it's going to be quite windy nationwide all day today. Temperature-wise, it will be 1 to 15 degrees lower than yesterday. And especially those in East Coast regions will notice a bigger drop in highs this afternoon. Western regions will be as warm as yesterday. Southern Daejeon will see highs of 20 degrees Celsius, Gyeongju topping out at 14 degrees Celsius. It will be mainly sunny in central regions, but southern parts of the country will see more clouds with a chance of rain in the east of Jeollabuk-do province this afternoon. Promising weather is in store for the general election tomorrow. Then temperatures soar to the mid-20s by the weekend in the capital, seeing 26 degrees Celsius on Sunday. That's Korea for you, and here's a look at the international weather conditions.
We thank you for watching New Day at Arirang. We'll be back on Thursday at the same time, 9 a.m. Korea time.